Yeah, so I had a year of NHS treatment, 18 cycles of chemo surgery, but the cancer kept growing.
Yeah.
And so a year later, December 2015, my same oncologist said, there's nothing else we can do for you. The cancer's growing.
And that's how they say it to you directly. There's nothing else we can do.
Well,
or in other words.
I went in, I sat down, and he said, it's bad news.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. He said, it's bad news, assuming I didn't hear.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. He said, it's bad news 3 times.
Well,
and I'm like,
I get it.
okay. Because I was so calm, I was so relaxed in that particular consult, because I knew it could either go 2 ways. It could be great news, it could be bad news. It was bad news, and it was, the chemo's not working, the cancer's growing, there's nothing else we can do for you. He was up front. And I was like, okay, what can we do? So the guys just told me there's nothing else we can do. And I'm like, so what can we do?
Yeah, there must be an alternative, yeah.
And I was lucky because of the biology of my cancer. I've got something called Lynch syndrome, which is a genetic mutation. And people with Lynch syndrome are high risk of developing bowel cancer. And women, there's the additional gynecological cancers. Because I've got Lynch syndrome, there was a new kind of treatment called immunotherapy that works really well. And my oncologist told me about that.
Oh, okay, so that's how you discovered it.
Yeah, he said, there is immunotherapy, but the problem is it's not on the NHS. So he said, we'll put in a funding request for it, but we'll also forward you to a research centre with a view to get you on a clinical trial.
Okay.
So that was when I was looking at immunotherapy for the first time, because previously I had no idea what it was, how it worked. So I left that consult with a bit of hope. But the challenge was, how do we get it? And so January, February, March, it was waiting for a decision on the funding.
Are you still going through treatment during this period, or
No,
you completely stopped the chemo?
There was no treatment. So the cancer left unattended would carry on growing.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I kept chasing up the research place for immunotherapy. They couldn't offer me that because to qualify for a research trial, you need to meet certain objectives, and the trials were looking for new patients with no treatment. Exactly. But they could offer me a different trial, which wasn't immunotherapy. They were like, let's put you on this while we wait. But I carried on growing. Cancer carried on growing regardless. So they took me off that straight away because they did a scan at the start, and then 8 weeks later did another scan. Didn't have any impact. The NHS said no. 3 months later, and the trials were saying no, and the drug companies also said no. So
have you put through requests to these guys?
Yes.
All the time,
yeah.
So they know that this treatment can potentially save your life and help you, and you're putting through applications, and they just sort of kind of knocking it all back. Saying,
absolutely. Yeah. The NHS said they just said it's not something they're gonna even look at.
Oh wow.
They said it's not an individual treatment request. There's a cohort of people with your similar.
Oh, okay.
So we're not even going to look at it. The drug companies, they call it compassionate use requests. We put in those applications and they came back negative, and they said the drug is on the market. If you can fund it, you can have access to it.
Yeah.
But then the problem was, when I asked about funding, I was told you need to be a millionaire.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
At one point I was told each session, each cycle can cost 20,000.
And how many cycles would one need?
Probably 1 a month, or 2 a month. Like, this was when I was doing the research, and so 20,000 every month. You do the maths.
Yeah.
For a year or 2 years, it was just like, crazy numbers we're talking.